Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs and their subjects. Today is May 9th, 2024 on the ancient moon calendar, 2025 on the ancient sun calendar. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity and in alignment and accordance with the ancient Noahide laws as stated by this Holy Congress. This is a sovereign living ancient Article 3, Moorish American Al-Moroccan Universal Court action. We are the divine sovereign living justices and Ego Sum Pauline Denise Ritchie. My free chosen sovereign appellation is Light Tajiri Bay. All are in capitis diminution nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. We are capite et corpus juris legalis, which is our statement that we are the lawful and legal, natural, living head and body for our empire. All Moors are the divine, original, indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites, Canaanites, Israelites, Hamathites, Cushites, and Hittites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our honor, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original, indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient empire state for Morocco. We're the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government. We're ancient Washington District for Columbia. We're the Universal Moorish American Consulate and the Earth-wide Article 3 Moorish American Consular Court. Today, we are demonstrating and being the law by our sovereign status, which is the original, indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient Article 3, living United States District for Columbia Court, and we are the sovereign fiduciaries, original creditors, executors, trustees, divine ministers, possessors, grantors, grantors, and title trustors for all causes for action. We are peace, we are one nation, one state, one empire, and one God. We hereby recognize ourselves and accept our divine sovereign ascension. We do possess in our custody all land, all natural resources, and all commerce. We, the true living God nation, are not at war, and we exercise and demonstrate all eternal, ancient, original sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc. The principles that we share, along with our sovereign, powerful demonstrations and study, are stare decisis, res judicata, and ancient positive supreme law for the land long established in sovereign order. Erudite principles and processes for daily practical application to intelligently govern our vast estate every day is what our ancient ancestors have given us to share with the ancient sovereign nations, tribes, clans, states, and governments at earth, and for this we are grateful. Islam. So we'll go ahead and share our screen and get started. Islam. Okay. So we will make a quick statement about Moorish sovereign dolarium gold receipts. Where gold receipts are concerned, we see the gold receipts working, and they are accepted, and really not accepted. It's really us accepting what's on our land for ourselves, for ourselves and for our nation. There is a huge difference between one of us who is governing the process. It's a huge difference between us going someplace and saying, "Hey, do you accept this?" Or, "Hey, I want to get some groceries. Can you take this Moorish sovereign dolarium?" That is not how to demonstrate Moorish sovereign dolarium. That's not how you do it. Okay? The way that Moorish sovereign dolarium is successfully demonstrated is that you minister the program to wherever you're going. You minister it ahead of time. You don't just show up with delirium in your hand. You actually demonstrate due process. And this is how we're seeing it work. You demonstrate due process, and then you go back again a couple of other times to give notification. You state how the process works. We have to know how to make it work so that we can tell them how to make it work. So for this territory, we're telling the subjects in the office of wherever manager, subjects in the office of grocery store managers, subjects in the office of retail, and I can't even call it retail because that's really not what it is. It's commercial vendors. We do our due diligence first. What is our job before we ever go to talk to anyone about Moorish sovereign delirium? Our job is going to be first and foremost, place a lien on the corporate corpse. That must be done for everything and everyone attempting to do commerce on the land, and we'll tell you why it's so important to do these things. Place a lien on the all caps. Place a lien on the doing business as. Place a lien on let's say Joe Schmo doing business as CEO of Walmart or whatever, wherever. And I'll just use Walmart as an example since they've been, since they are fully in subject status. Place a lien, a levy, and a bond. You're not bonding the dead that you liened. When you lien the debtors, they're debtors and they cannot pay the bills. There's no way that they can pay the liens that we've placed on them because the liens are gold liens. Okay, so then you levy. The purpose of the levy is to possess all of the physical goods and intellectual property. So it's not just physical; it's also intellectual property. It's everything that has to do with the business or whatever it is, the corporation or whatever. The bond then is you're bonding the property that you levied and possessed. You're bonding now that property and that process to the land, and we know we're the land. Okay. Once you do that, then there is the process. So now what you've done is you've taken care of the old dead address and quote unquote any trusts, Cetus trusts and things that were enacted. And I bring up Cetus trusts because all addresses that have those two-letter states that really don't exist were placed in a Cetus trust in the enactment. And all we're doing is saying those are not valid. Okay, because there's no such thing as a two-letter state. And so then the proper address must be bonded and placed. Okay. This is important, just so important because there are so many implications from the previous enactment that we saw that these processes make it so that those things don't manifest that should not manifest, and that everything that should manifest does. First and foremost, peace on the land manifests when we do the processes properly. We're seeing it with our own eyes. So let's move to one of our topics in alignment with all that we've stated thus far. Peacefully. I realized some things even as I was researching regarding the whole regarding the whole money piece and all of that, everything that has to do with currency, energy, and so on and so forth. So in alignment with that, let us ask the question, is the post office federal property? Why or why not? What is it that makes a place a federal property? Islam.
Is a lie. Well, a lie. Well.
Is the post office federal property? Why or why not? And what is it that makes a property federal?
The Polk County police officers are.
Because we're talking about jurisdiction.
Islam?
Islam, Empress.
It is a government property, and we are federal, so it belongs to us. Islam.
Islam. So, is there anyone else?
Islam.
Islam, Empress.
Is it because it's like lawful stare decisis versus statutes and codes?
That's one of the reasons as well as what Empress Cynthia stated. Yes.
Okay.
Isn't it funny how the teacher has never been able to successfully use delirium?
Anyone else?
Islam.
Islam, Empress.
Yes, it's because it's the original jurisdictional office. It's the one that had control over all accounts. It was the office that
Why don't you use your...
Go ahead, Empress.
That was the president, and it has the jurisdiction to travel from shore to shore.
Islam.
You Negroes are also...
Islam, Empress.
Islam, nobility.
Would it have something to do with information being passed?
That as well, yes. Yes. They call it, if there's a issue with information being passed, sometimes it's called wire fraud and things of that nature because of the currencies. Islam. Islam.
I was thinking because it was under the GSA schedule.
That's another reason, yes.
Islam.
Islam, Empress.
I would think one of the reasons would be because the post office is the foundation of creating a nation. Has to be the post office before all the other government offices and stuff come along.
That's major. That is huge and major. Yes. Huge and major. Major. There's always a post office first.
Islam.
Justice Noble Phoenix L, and then Justice Tona.
I would say it has a lot to do also with the fact that the postmaster was supposed to be the governor of all contracts. They controlled and regulated, and all contracts were, in essence, allowed, and I'm not going to say allowed, they were facilitated through post offices, because you can't have a contract going from here all the way to the other side of the world unless there was a post office. So they govern all contracts. That's why it was important for us to lien, levy, and bond the post office service, the corporation side of that, and to take over the functions of that as postmaster of all contracts, because that's at the core of all commerce contracts. Islam.
Yes, major. Yes. Justice Thomas.
Islam, he just covered it.
Yeah.
Islam.
Empress Cynthia. Go ahead, Empress.
It has been my understanding this was from our ancestors, and within that, the post office system is the banking system, our court system, and the delivery service, if I'm correct. Islam.
Yes. Islam, major, huge. So The post office is actually one of the functions that is written into the Constitution. That's another reason why it is considered federal property, is because it is written into the Constitution. And then also commercial, and it's similar to what Noble Phoenix stated about contracts going back and forth from all over. When the contract is numbered by the post office, and that's why certified mail and registered mail and mail that has numbers attached to it or tracking attached to it, when it is assigned a number, it then becomes a banking instrument. And ours are instruments the moment we think of them and write them. So you're still talking about money all day, every day when you're talking about contracts going back and forth. It's all about money, all about currency. So with the post office, it doesn't matter who's sending what they're sending. The post office does not discriminate. That office does not discriminate, or that system rather, does not discriminate on who can send things through it, as long as the process is honored. So another question. Are weapons, namely guns, allowed at the post office? Why or why not? Are weapons, namely guns, allowed at the post office? Why or why not?
Because of the banking piece?
That's part of it, but is that a yes or no?
Yes, that's why they have guns. Because they're because of the banking, the gold and silver that was passing through the bank. Through the post office. Islam.
Empress.
Islam.
They're not allowed.
No, they're not.
Right.
They're not allowed. Go ahead, Nobility.
Oh, I wanted to say because it's federal property, that's why I assumed they weren't allowed. Islam.
Correct. Weapons are not allowed on government property.
Islam.
First,
Justice Nathaniel, he was liking to speak to answer the previous question. I don't know if he was able to hear him or not.
No, we didn't hear him.
All right.
Did anyone else hear Justice Nathaniel? I didn't hear him.
All right. But for the now, I had mentioned a suggestion that he come over on this microphone and speak, but he remains where he is at. So continuing on, for the purpose of this question now, are weapons and namely guns allowed at the post office? Because it's federal government, the answer is no. So for that point, it would be a contradiction for corporation, so-called federal government agency buildings to have, armed agents on the premises.
Empress, you jumped straight on in to what we're looking at here. We have to see exactly what you just stated and how massive the violation has been.
Yeah, it's a whole contradiction. It's a blatant violation. It just shows the falsehood, the foolery, the fugazi, as we say, that, they're not government. They're not federal agencies. They're fictitious actors. That part.
Islam. So, having stated that, now let us get to the meat and potatoes of the issue. If a place, any place, accepts, issues, or exchanges Federal Reserve notes, is that place federal property or private property?
Definitely private.
You said private?
Private. Yes, private.
Anyone else?
I mean, out of the two.
Empress,
Islam.
It's not our federal property. The basis of the word federal is alliance, trust, and so they trust one another. That's their federal. It's not our federal. It's not.
Islam. Islam nobility.
The use of private commercial paper would tell me that it was a private. I mean, their acceptance of private commercial paper would say that it's private to me.
You are all correct. You're all correct. Everyone is correct. Everyone is correct thus far.
Islam.
Islam, Empress.
The consensus over here is neither. And Justice Nathan was gonna say something. Here he comes.
Islam nobility. We can hear you now. We didn't hear you at all. I didn't hear anything at all.
Yeah, I'm just having technical difficulties with my computer, so I'll fix it. But on this question right here is neither. The reason why I state that because Federal Reserve notes, even in their in law from our ancestors, it never existed. So it can't be private commercial paper because it didn't exist. You know, they can't be private if you what's it called, counterfeiting, because that's what they did. They counterfeited from the original, which was United States.
The
United States dollars.
Yeah.
It was never, Federal Reserve didn't exist. That's something they created.
They commercialized.
No, they created it because they was given a duty to do commerce, but they forfeit that duty when they created the Federal Reserve note. It automatically, they abandoned the position. So it's not private because private would have to be done with lawful money anyway. So they couldn't have been private.
So everyone is correct depending on where you are on the timeline and who you're talking about.
Yes.
Everyone is correct. If you're talking about us, because we know we're really the only federal government, and when we say us, we're talking about all Moors, instead of, as opposed to a foreign corpse. When you're talking about federal, if a place accepts, issues, or exchanges Federal Reserve notes, in reality, it is considered a federal place. That's why the military in the past could go to any place, and they could even go to people's houses, quote unquote, and board themselves in and say, we're going to take over your house and we're going to stay here for reasons of whatever, because there's a war issue going on the land. So we're going to, and I forget what they call it in the law. They call it, it's in the Constitution also.
Safe harbor.
It is safe harbor. That's one of them in the commercial code. It is that. It's also there's another word they use for it though. Another term that they use for it. Where you I'll have to think. It'll come to me eventually. But are we aware, because see, this occurred to me as I was demonstrating this week, demonstrating delarium at Commerce, at the territory, it occurred to me that no matter where you are, if U.S. Federal Reserve debt notes were being passed around, and that's why they had to stop doing it, stop printing them. When those things are passed around, that automatically makes it so that at any time the fakes could quote unquote, and I'll just use this term, we know that they don't have a jurisdiction, but they could invoke jurisdiction and just take over wherever that place is, because ultimately they had in their enactment supreme, jurisdiction. They could send the military somewhere and the military could take over wherever it is, no matter what it is, if they were passing Federal Reserve notes or debt notes rather. So now let's look at this one. Are those who use U.S. Federal Reserve debt notes considered employees of the U.S. corporation company? Why or why not?
Islam. I'll answer that by saying the question is, are they employees? Yes. Technically, yes, because the private script of the private company or municipal jurisdiction company, whatever you call them, that is script for their citizens. And they're deemed to be, by use of those notes, citizens of the corporation, which makes them employees. What also makes them employees is using that Federal Reserve notes, which is only issued to employees and federal agents of the Federal Reserve. The citizen is an agent the citizen of the corporation is an agent of the Federal Reserve. They're simultaneously conjoined together by the use of that same script.
What about Moors?
Same thing with Moors. When we're still using them, until such time that we correct that oversight, that error. So when we use them, until we restate our position, or for example, I'll add one correction to that. The correction would be when I, out of necessity, used to cash my checks, I would put on the endorsement what my will and what my intention was. And it was expressed through 12 U.S.C. 411, 412, that this was to be redeemed in lawful money. So for my purposes, I was not carrying Federal Reserve notes. I was carrying lawful money. Under the law of necessity, it came out and it looks just like it, but it is actual lawful money because they don't issue anything separate in the old mirror. That's the way I operated, and that cleared me in my mind from my intentions. But technically, they may still say that gives them jurisdiction,
They actually did say that.
Yeah, they did.
Not only did they say it, they actually they enacted that.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Just by you using that.
Yeah.
So it was a very dangerous thing for us to continue using. Yeah. And so I'm so glad we have our own money and everything else so that we don't have to rely on that. And we have a methodology, a system that we're perfecting day by day, yes, so that we're able to stop being a part of Babylon, being yes, a part of what's actually the sinking Titanic today, Islam.
Islam, Empress. So before we started speaking on this, I was like, all right, this is why reparations from that fictitious funny mirror was a double-edged sword, because you will recontract into their dead system, thus making you subject slave to their system. So in reality, you're not getting any reparations. I mean, because goodness, what is reparations even defined as? I mean, let me look that up right quick.
Well, you would be attempting to repair a dead system, and that's impossible.
So, to think that our brothers and sisters and, our sleeping, people would even consider getting reparations is from that system is an oxymoron.
Because you're trying to pair. That's the root word of reparations, is to pair. That means to put together the living and the dead, and it just doesn't work.
And so when you ask this question, are those who use the U.S. Federal Reserve debt notes considered employees? They see. And another thing people don't even realize when they desire and will to get reparations from that system, they want to remove themselves from that system and they also want to seek justice and, let the world know that they're essentially stating to the public, that's a public proclamation in some regards, that they wronged us, right? So because they're seeking reparations, they're like, oh, look at us, we're getting reparations because they're admitting that they wronged us, and we want to remove ourselves from, their system because we know that we shouldn't be here anyway. But you're further tethering yourself to the system because you're seeking something that they could never give you anyway, because we had what we had before, and we always had a government. So seek thyself approved and state your own, and justly give yourself what's due you. That's it.
Yes. Yes. So let's take a look here at
Islam.
Nobility.
Islam.
There was a noble that was saying Islam. He said Islam twice. There was a noble.
So I'm looking at Islam in a lot of bad New York territory.
Islam.
Are those who use U.S. Federal Reserve debt notes considered employees of the U.S. corporation company, right? Now,
yes.
Those using the Federal Reserve notes is committing a crime. That's the first thing.
Yes.
Why? Because it's unconstitutional.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
Indeed. It most certainly is. So let's take a look. Empress Aisha, I believe you were, Empress Aisha.
Yes, I was going to say something. One of the major things that they keep their knee on our neck with is a voting registration. A voter registration, because when they insist that you use their tags and stuff, they even have it down to such a fine science now. When you buy that, when you get that tag, they really put you in the system, and you be really waged in there, because it takes a while. I think it probably took them about an hour and a half maybe to get me out of there, because I insisted that they take me out.
So they Islam, Empress, indeed.
It
might seem like they have it down to a science, but we have it down to a science also to restate everything they do, tags included. We can restate tags. We can restate driver's license. We have all of that. We have the ability, the authority, the power, and the process.
I had all of that. I had all of that, and I had our tags on my car. Mm-hmm. And all the documentation and everything, but they pushed and pushed. I'm going to straighten it out, though. They pushed and pushed. It has a lot
to do with the fiat, Empress. It has a lot to do with the use of the fiat on one hand, and then trying to say that we're not in the system on the other. You see what I'm saying? So like if we were to, let's say, if they said, oh, you got a ticket for running a red light, you're going to have to pay this ticket, and then they send something out and they cast a spell in writing, then we say, okay, I'm just going to pay this to keep this part taken care of, and then I'll just keep you know. But then when it's convenient for us, we then say, no, we're not a part of that system, but we pay that ticket with fiat. Then you're combining yourself back in. You're putting your, you know, and when I say you, I mean anyone. That's how people get put back in, is they pull out some fiat because they get scared or something, or they feel like they don't have enough time to demonstrate, or they feel like they don't know what to do, you know. And I'm stating that to say we don't even have time to be hard on ourselves about that. We just have to keep moving. We can't do it that way. We can't keep going back to that. We have to demonstrate and stay demonstrating.
Okay, I understand. I know there's some other options. I've got to get that all under my thumb, but
yeah,
I had everything else. I had all of my mortgage ID.
Wait a minute, Empress. I just know that I was not speaking directly to you about that. I was speaking about any of us and all of us. Empress,
Okay.
I know that you are demonstrating at the level of your overstanding. I'm aware of that. We all know that. We know you're a powerful Empress. So don't take that way. I just will to put that forth because of the topic that we're speaking on. Islam.
Okay. And it did include some of those circumstances too.
Yeah, Islam. We've all been there, Empress, and you know, our thing is at where we are right now as a nation. We have to stand more than ever now, because the time is short on that other enactment. The time is very short. It's like 2 weeks short. 2 weeks. 2 weeks, everyone. Please hear me. 2 weeks.
We affirm and confirm and stand and declare and proclaim and profess, and yes, it is so.
It's late in the hour for those things to keep, you know. We have to stand, afraid or not. We still have to stand. We already know how to do everything simply because we restate everything we see. Give it a name, restate it, rewrite it, and then notify. We're the court. There is no other court. The Moors, the original indigenous people, are the court. So let's look at Chapter 5 of the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. It says this chapter discusses special accounting and reporting procedures applicable to Federal Reserve notes. The Federal Reserve Act requires that Federal Reserve notes be issued to a reserve bank through the Federal Reserve agent. That means the only way that anyone can even get, and we'll just say Federal Reserve debt notes, for example, because see, there are Federal Reserve notes that are legal and lawful. But then the ones that we've been seeing in the past have not been. Those things running around, those that were previously, that's debt. It depends on who prints it as to whether it is legal and lawful or not. And so the only way to get either one, in other words, if we were to call Delarium a Federal Reserve note, it would be a Federal Reserve credit note or trust note. Okay, and that trust note is the proper rebuttal to the debt note. It's proper rebuttal to the debt note. And so the only way you can get trust notes, Federal Reserve trust notes and Federal Reserve creditor notes, is by way of one of us. Just like those fake dead debt notes, you could only get them, from the dead corpses. So this is where it states that anyone who is issuing or receiving or giving Federal Reserve, it says here the Federal Reserve Act requires that Federal Reserve notes be issued to a reserve bank through the Federal Reserve agent or through an assistant Federal Reserve agent appointed by the agent upon pledge of adequate collateral security by the bank. That one statement right there tells you that if you're shoveling Federal Reserve debt notes around, you know what you're doing? You're stating that, and we're talking about the debt notes printed by foreigners, by a foreign system, let me put it that way, a foreign system, because we love foreigners too. They just have to be properly documented. That foreign system does not have any, doesn't own anything, therefore you become the collateral. This is where surety comes in at. That one statement right there says it all. That is where the surety comes in at, because there must be, quote unquote, adequate collateral security by the bank. And they know that you're the bank and I'm the bank. They know that already. And they know they don't own anything. So then when you use them just to pass them back and forth, you are agreeing to be the collateral and the security because you're the bank. That is part 5. Let's look at that. Chapter 5 of the Federal Reserve Act, Article 50.01. Right there. Now, why is that important? That is important because either we're the sovereigns, and we are the sovereigns, we know that, so I'll have to make that statement clearer. Because I've heard people say, well, that's what people are using, and it's what's good right now, so I'm just going to use what's good right now. No, you got to be moving towards not using that. And the reason we are putting emphasis on that now is because you only have 2 weeks left. And after this 2-week period coming up from today, after that 2-week period, the tumble down, the final tumble down happens. It begins. It's almost like Noah's Ark. Come on in the ark, everyone. How many people were in the ark? 8. That was our 4 mothers and 4 fathers. 4 mothers and 4 fathers. It's time. We must continue moving in that direction. And we get that people say that, oh, well, that's all I have to work with. Be moving in the direction. Cut off as many avenues for that stuff to be going through your hands as possible right now. Why is this so important? Because we don't want to see anybody go drop down into the pit of poverty and then have to try and crawl out of there when you can just be working on it now. When you can be moving in that direction right now. That's why this is so important right now. There's no more time. So now the next question is, are individuals, because see, we talked about the Constitution and should there be any firearms and weapons on federal property and things of that nature, are individuals considered a well-organized militia? That's a question. Are individuals considered a well-organized militia? And well-organized militia is according to the Second Amendment, because that's what everyone seems to point to. when they want to justify weapons.
Islam,
Empress.
I would venture to say no, because of the word individual. Because are you a part of a nation state? Are you a part of a government? Where's the sole nexus purpose for you being the militia? Because you can't be standing alone, by yourself and claiming protection. You have to have a collective, body to be protected and to protect. So it would not be an individual considered a well-organized militia at all.
That is correct. The state is a well-organized militia. We are already a well-organized militia. And we didn't even have to have a gun in our hands because we got some mighty powerful pens. A gun can't move unless somebody's hand picks it up, and neither can a pen. We're already a well-organized militia. Already well-organized. When we said, everybody, okay, we're going to do leans. Let's lean everything moving. The well-organized militia did just that. When we said, okay, now let's add the levy piece to it. The well-organized militia did just that. When we said, okay, we're going to use our own mailing process so that we don't have to keep passing around debt notes, claiming to be a nation and a government, but we have to use someone else's debt notes to get things done. The well-organized militia said, no, that's something we can fix right there. And let me just say this. There are some, just like Empress Aisha stated, she talked about the tags and that system, quote unquote, and things of that nature. If we, and this is again, we can't tell sovereigns what to do, but we suggest that each process where fiat notes, debt notes were being sloshed around, look at those processes and see which ones you can deal with first or do without first, so that you don't have to keep sloshing all of that stuff around. Because here's the thing, if you're dependent on it now with those processes, what are you going to do if they shut your bank account down, quote unquote? If they shut it down, how are you going to get that stuff done? You might as well know how to do it the right way. And this is a strong, strong, strong suggestion to the sovereigns. Any areas where you're dependent on that, see, this is what we've seen too. The ancestors have made it so that we have not missed a beat. Anything that we willed to come to us has come to us when we said, we're just not going to use it. We're just not going to use fiat. We're just not going to use it. Everything has been coming to us the way it should. The ancestors have made sure. Have we had days where we had to do without things? Yeah, we've had those days. But to us, those days were just a test. There have been days where fiat was in reach, laying down, waiting on me to pick it up and do something with it. No, I'll do without, because I'm going to demonstrate my status. So we should be working vigorously and moving in the direction vigorously of removing all processes that require that. And we already know no process requires that. No process requires U.S.debt notes. No process requires that. And I did a demonstration at a place that the public goes to, and they had armed, and I'll just I was going to say rent-a-cop, but I can't even give them that title because they don't have that title either. they had someone, two persons there with in their enactment with guns on their hips. And the ancestors just had me to keep looking at it, but the ancestors didn't say anything about it until I got home and just thought about what was I looking at? Why did you keep bringing them to my attention? The ancestors stated that because of previous acceptance of U.S. Federal Reserve debt notes, the place was a federal place. That's why they were so quick to put armed persons there. And we know all we had to do was, we know now, and we will do this the next time we go to any place where there appears to be someone with weapons. Once we've stated that place properly, okay, and we stated it properly, then we can say that can't be on this property. So you're going to have to take that off this property because this is federal property. Why? Because we got delium going through there. We have delium going through there. It's federal property. No guns allowed. Guess what that does for us, Moors? It means that fake policy enforcers cannot be showing up anywhere talking about whatever they were talking about in the previous era, because guns are not going to be allowed on federal property. None. We're at peace. If you'll notice now, wars and rumors of wars in the enactment is what they are saying. When I look at the previous era, all I'm thinking was we were at war and we didn't know it. But they were saying peace in the previous era. Everything was good and peaceful for them. And the minute we say, okay, we're awake now, everything is peaceful, they have to say the opposite in their enactment. So any place, and this is, again, whether it be a grocery store, whether it be a nail salon, whether it be a car wash, everywhere where they were accepting U.S. Federal Reserve debt notes is federal property. No guns should have been anywhere on our land is what I'm stating. And that is how guns will be off the land. And really, there are no guns on our land anyway, as we continue to proclaim the land and do it properly, the way that we've been demonstrating. There was never supposed to be any of that. And so, you know, Moors that are doing things where firearms are concerned, because see, we call them firearms because an arm is a part of the body. That's why we call them firearms and not weapons or guns for us. That's how you keep peace on the land, is it's an extension of your body. So where firearms are concerned, we see that some Moors who are heavily, you know, they have firearms on their minds because they do a lot of training and things of that nature. They must, as soon as possible, remove fiat from their activities so that they won't keep getting in trouble about that stuff. And I'm talking about across the board. I'm not talking about anyone in particular. I'm talking about everyone. Because, see, those who were enacting and pretending to be law enforcement, they already know that guns are not necessary for us unless we choose to have them for entertainment purposes, hunting and whatever else, target practice, whatever. And again, I'm not against firearms, rather. I am against weapons because we don't need weapons. But firearms, no problem. When properly stated, everything must be properly stated. And then do everything you can. Use Delarium as often as you can. When you're sending out your demonstrations, send Delarium with them. Even if it's just $1 Delarium. One. Because it's a statement of jurisdiction. I don't will to see anyone without a place to live, or not live, because your body is where you live, where we all live, but our bodies is where those are our homes, those are our domiciles, our homes rather. I don't will to see any, and that's why we're doing what we're doing and getting ahead of the poverty that's coming for those not in our jurisdiction, but for those that are heavily dependent on fiat and who are not going to change until they see somebody else do it. Don't do that to yourself. Demonstrate for yourself. Don't wait for someone else to show you a video of them getting something with Delarium. We get stuff with Delarium all the time. But there's a reason why it's not posted all over social media. Everyone must demonstrate and be their own vine and fig tree. You know what a fig tree is? Fig is short for figure it out. Fig is short for think, figure. That other enactment, the theater of U.S. debt is finished. And again, we don't will to see anybody have to hit rock bottom in the poverty part of that enactment because they refuse to come out and at least be demonstrating. See, the thing about what we're stating and the things that we've done and the things that we're doing and that we're going to continue to do is that our ancestors have taken good care of us, great care of us, because we're continuing to go in the direction, continuing to go in the direction, continuing to move in the direction so that everything, I mean, we could tell you some stories about moving in the direction and making it so that years go by and you haven't used any fiat. Years. And you haven't used any fiat. But you still have even more than you had before. Because that, I'm telling you, it's a bowl of porridge compared to your estate. And that thing, the window, it's called a kairos moment. Kairos means a window of time. Chronos is for all time. We are who we are. And some people, I can just hear in the spirit realm, some are trying to justify that that's all they have. You still have to be moving in the direction, though. You still have to be demonstrating in every area that you can demonstrate Delarium and lawful and legal money. That, for example, what you receive for your services, not services, your works as Moors, should never be in fiat. That is such an oxymoron. It's a paradox. It's a antithesis of what you're really stating. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. No matter who you are, it doesn't work. Because you're letting everyone else know that you don't mind being a U.S. Federal Reserve agent. I said it. And y'all, I don't denigrate people. I don't call names and things, but that's the truth about that because you just read it. We just showed you. Our ancestors mean business, and nobody need go down into the pit of poverty. And here's the crazy part about that. is we just came out of that era, and a lot of us a lot of Moors were in the pit of the poverty den anyway. So we had nothing to lose by going ahead and being ourselves. So the time is short on that piece, and our ancestors, because the remedy is here, and when I say here, the remedy is present, because we're all present. Then the actors don't have to act anymore. They don't have to act out a bank account for you. They don't have to act out a contract to buy a car, which really was short for carriage. Automobile, vehicle, etc. Conveyance. They don't have to keep acting that stuff out. And guess what? They're not. They're not acting out banking anymore. It's going away in stages and phases so that it's in an orderly manner. I'm surprised they got this far without people banging down doors at places that were pretending to be banks. But I'm grateful that our ancestors made it so that everything is still happening. It's not going to stop. That enactment is done. Delium is in gold and silver, and just know that those things that you've been buying, and I have some too, those are not coins, those are rounds. And guess what a round is? A round is also called a bullet. I'm just saying. We have got to get moving on our own money system. And listen, we know that, and we're already moving on it. We've been moving on it for years. We only accept delium and gold and silver for our works that we do. That's the only thing that that's what we accept. And now the territory is we've tributed delium at the territory. And we're going to continue doing that. Our ancestors know what they're doing. We have to trust. And guess what? We are our ancestors' return. Don't we trust ourselves, at least?
Islam,
nobility.
Could you please open for
Islam.
Thank you so very much.
You're welcome. So Islam Empress.
I knew something was up when their latest bank failure was Republic First.
Yes.
So, so I'm going, there's a message in that.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes. And the message is actually to them and not even to us. Because the very first one that they enacted failing was First Republic. The very first quote-unquote bank that they enacted failing was First Republic. And then now Republic First was their latest enactment. And it's at Philadelphia territory. So we can't keep using the excuse.
What are you going to say in 2 weeks when nothing happens, Pauline? What are you going to say in...
Here's the issue, even with one bank, quote unquote, failing. If even one of them failed, think about it. They were all in trust with each other in their enactment. And if even one of them failed, that means they're all failed in their enactment. But see, we knew they were bankrupt from the beginning. We knew that already. Why wait until everything is cut off in the act from the actor's perspective? Why wait for that?
What are you going to say in 2 weeks when nothing happens?
Why wait for that? Don't wait for it. Go ahead and be moving in the direction of getting yourself out of the use of fiat, because it's not helping anyone. We know it's not helping anyone. We see it's not helping anyone. What is an actor who was previously acting as president doing without any fiat and can't get themselves out of nothing? That's a hint to everyone.
You sure accept that government?
It's a hint. So continue moving forward with delirium. And here's the thing about delirium. We must minister delirium. We can't go and expect someone to know about delirium and honor it when we've not ministered the process to them. But know this, when ministering the process, as you're ministering it, the way is clear. The way is clear for you to minister the process. We have no adversary.
That's funny. We
have no adversary, none whatsoever. No adversary. I was speaking to one of the Chief Justices the other day about this very thing, and, you know, they stated that to some, the debt note piece is like the final frontier. That's like the last thing that they have to get over. We agree that they're already over it. They just have to demonstrate that they're over it. Two weeks on those actors. And it's really not even 2 weeks. It's done already. It was done in 1776. It was really done then. It was done before it got started. If you will to have the land, and I can't say that because it's already peaceful. If you will to see peace in your life, keep moving in the direction. As many processes as you can, rid them of the need or use, and it's not even a need, it's a choice. Fiat is a choice. Everyone knows that it's a choice. It's a choice. Even if you're getting housing or SNAP benefits or things of that nature, that stuff should still be restated. It should still be restated. So that when they cut it off, because it's gonna be cut off. So that when it's cut off, because acting was not meant to be forever, you will be able to demonstrate your benefits. And no one will question you. No, you will have no adversary at all. Wisdom has no adversary.
Islam,
nobility.
A question in that regard. We just recently had this very discussion on the benefits of so-called benefits, the use of the SNAP or EBT for those who had those. Would I be correct? I know that I am. Would I be correct in saying, for the record, that the proper way to restate that would be several things? One, you're going to restate what the contract is. Number two, you're going to lien and levy that number, the card, the agency, boom, boom, boom. Now, restate the card. And restate the card. That it's not a debit benefit card, that it is a tool in the hands of the creditor. I can't think of the exact language I want to use right there, okay? But because it's not a debt-affiliated thing, that means that we have to basically restate the entire program.
Yes.
So I was thinking, I said, well, wait a minute. If I do that, I'm not doing it for me. I got to do it for all the heirs, like what we've discussed before, right? Yes. So the national program, whatever we call it, whatever term I come up with, has to be restated in such a way that it is applicable to the entire nation, so that anyone who has that card right now under the old system can restate it under the new system, new qualifications, which just need your nationality, you need to proclaim, be in your proper status. Boom. And if you already had that card, you qualified.
Yes. All you would have to do, once you minister the process, once you write that, restate it, even you can issue SNAP cards to others that will be honored.
See, I didn't even think about issuing it myself. I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking in terms of, but why wouldn't we? You're absolutely right. Why not? Because you can't have them administering a creditor program. They are not competent to do that, nor do they have the authority.
Nope. And we're not delegating authority either, because we want our legs. We will to have our legs.
So then the question that I had was, I'm going to fund the entire program, okay, when I write the program directives and, the outline. And we're going to set aside a certain amount of delirium for all the nation, okay? And who chooses to use it, they choose to use it. Some may say, I don't need it, or I desire not to use it simply because I'm just using my merchant card, blah, blah, blah. So then they don't need it. But if you already had it and you want to go to the grocery store, then, we're going to set aside X amount for each household. All right, so that's more than enough, so everybody can still go and eat. Okay, and
we got to think about the subjects as well.
Yes. Yeah. So then a provision would have to be written into the program for the subjects to be able to access the same thing. We're going to be issuing a card to them.
Yes, and here's the thing: when we are governing our estates properly, we don't need SNAP cards and we don't need welfare and we don't need those things. However, we can't look down on anybody who does, and because there are some of us that still don't think we're, some will never accept their nationality because they just are programmed so heavily. We still have to make it so that they can access things, and it has to come from us.
Okay, good. So I had the right idea. When we were discussing this, it came up generically, innocently, and Brother Howard and I had that discussion. He had already kind of gone this route, and then we started collaborating just recently, and realized, okay, that's something that we could do together.
Keep it simple, and that's my suggestion. Keep it simple, nobility.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can write up a SNAP program in a one-page affidavit when you quote the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, or either the General Welfare Clause. The General Welfare Clause is what everything was all about anyway. That's so with the General Welfare Clause, all of those programs are ministered under the General Welfare Clause. So just that, by court action on an affidavit, and then my suggestion Noble Phoenix, is that the name stays similar to what it is.
Yes.
SNAP stands for something. So
Yes.
just write that all the way out in
I
blue.
did actually.
And that's what I'm saying. Just keep we don't have to have 1,000-page something to write these programs up and minister them.
Yeah.
You know, keep it simple, because there's still a lot of work that we'll be doing, because as we're ministering Delarium at the territory, and it's going to everyone. It doesn't matter what their status is. They still have to have it. And then they're actually proclaiming their status by accepting it. Which is the same thing that we're saying about the fiat.
Yes, absolutely. I see that. Wow.
So as we're ministering the real money at the territory, all we're doing is looking at, okay, right now I'm not gonna make a whole long deal out of the process of the ministry. It's going to be it is being done and ministered very to the point, getting to the point. A one-page document for them and some Delarium, and they go in and get whatever we put on that page. That's what they go in and get with Delarium. Period.
Okay.
One meat item, one starch item, and one vegetable item. Boom. And the Delarium to get those items. One whole chicken, one whole one ham, one chicken, or one fish, and then either some a bag of potatoes or a bag of rice, and some vegetable.
Yeah.
For starters. This is just for starters. This is just to get things going. And I'm telling you, we can't lose with what we have, because they don't have anything else. Most of the tills in the grocery stores don't even have cash in them. A lot of the businesses, especially the smaller ones, they don't have cash in their quote unquote cash in their tills. They don't have it. And then people are going into those places and lifting things out and things of that nature. That should not be. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. People don't have to steal when all they have to do is get some Delarium and the list and get what they need out of the store.
Speaking of that, I was at Wally World store today, and I attempted to use the Delarium, but the machine at this point, now mind you, I have not addressed that store specifically, okay, but I wanted to just try it anyway, so I did. And it went in and it came right back out, went in, came back out. I said, okay, no big deal. No alarms went off, no bells went off, none of that.
No.
It just said reject because they haven't been notified yet. All right? And so I was like, so I didn't expect anything to go through.
Yeah.
Even though the little bill changer that used to say dollar says notes now. So now they have to be told that you're going to start accepting this, and this is what it looks like. From 100 on down. Nobody should be going there with $500 denomination Delarium. It's not necessary for Walmart.
The program is so specific that it's the basic necessities that they're going to go in with the receipt in their hand. All of the receipts are the same. They look the same. They have the same. And each day has a specific receipt number. And then you have a list of 3 things that they can go in and get if they will to do so.
Which program are you talking about? Because I'm not familiar with what you're talking about.
This is just general issuing of Delarium and money at the territories. This is it goes along with the United States People and Patriots program that we discussed.
That's what I'm asking. What are you linking that to?
That program.
Okay. Because I didn't know it had that much detail in it with issuing the instructions. So I wasn't aware of that. So that's why I asked.
It's not really detailed. Well, I can't say it's not really detailed. I mean, I could show you like a copy of one of the receipts that we crafted, And let me tell you, when we took the receipt to the subjects in the office of manager, it was so on point that they couldn't say that it wasn't one of theirs. Except, of course, ours has color to it. It doesn't look like it was spit out of of one of the previous registers.
I see.
But it had all the right numbers. Everything was on point.
Okay.
And all I did was just go in, and I had already pre-planned what items were going to be on there on the receipt. And I won't state where I went. But just for now. But I had 3 items on the receipt that I specifically went to get. One of the items was milk. One of the items was honey, because this is our land. This is the land of milk and honey, and we're demonstrating that. And then what I did was go in, and I had a blank on the receipt where I could write in the price in blue ink, and then add everything up. It was just 3 items. Add everything up. That means that the receipt, and I had already stamped and sealed and signed the receipt before here at home office. I took it in. I took the 3 items to the counter, and I showed them the 3 items. I could have gone out with the 3 items. I could have gotten them at that point, because all they said was, okay, yep, when does the program start? Okay, yes, okay. And then they started figuring out, like, okay, well, what do we ring it up under? I said it can go either under cash or WIC vouchers, or it can go under traveler's checks if you had a traveler's check. But I know you don't have one, because it was a nutrition store. It was a store, grocery store. But I was able to tell them what the process is, and because I was able to state the process, there was no denial about whether the program is active or not. It's automatically active. Proper notification was given. Even the building was properly stated by way of the county, our county court. So there was no argument, no discussion. No one said we can't do that. No one said, who are you, or none of that. We had no adversary at all.
All right, very good. Justice Earl is trying to get in.
Lock the chat. Cowards lock the chat. Only cowards lock the chat.
Islam.
Can you send me the postage necessary?
We can't hear you. You're going to have to get really close to your apparatus, to your microphone.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you vaguely.
Okay, can you send me the no postage necessary stamp on my email?
Can I send you what stamp?
The postage stamp. The one that was sent is real gloomy.
Okay, can someone send Empress Angel? Can you send Justice Nadunk the postage stamp? Is that correct, Justice Nadunk? The postage stamp?
Correct.
Yeah.
Can I get his email? Is it in the chat, or is it the chat open? I don't know if I have his email.
It is. It should be open. The chat should be open.
Oh no, it says been disabled.
Just a moment. Oh, that's what this one.
Empress Light, Islam.
Yes, Islam, Empress.
I was going to tell you that under the video for August 9th, the stamps have been removed.
Right, correct.
Okay. You all should be able to message to put things in the chat. Can someone put something in the chat really quickly?
It still says it's disabled.
It's disabled.
Okay. Let me make sure I do it on the right computer, because I'm working with 2 computers here instead of just one. One moment. Meeting settings.
For the record, it is disabled.
Okay. Just one moment.
Okay, it's back. No, it's not.
This
Okay,
one.
it's back. Yeah, there it
Wait
is.
a minute. Okay, there it goes. Islam. You should be able to chat. Are you able to put things in there? Okay, good.
Islam, will they be able to put the link for the stamps in the chat?
I believe they can put the link to the stamps in the chat.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
If someone could put the link to the stamps in the chat.
Check the link too, because the one that I'm pulling up, it doesn't. It's been removed under the post office lien levy bond, August 9th.
Okay. Just one moment. That is interesting that it's, let me see.
So what's Pauline going to say when her shit don't work 2 weeks from today? What's Pauline?
This is so good. Okay.
Come on, Pauline. Tell everybody what your lie is going to be. I'm sure you'll come up with the real dude.
Let me find, let me go to my channel. Let me find the post office one.
I just sent it to you. I just sent it to you.
Okay.
Do you see it?
Let me see. Oops. Yes, I see. Let me see. Peace and grand rising to the south. Apologia. Let's see. Okay, let me. Yeah, sorry to find
Islam, I just made a link because I had the file downloaded to my computer. It took me a minute to find. So I hope it's the newer one because I know we've done it more than once.
No. Yes, those are no, those are not the new ones. Because it's still non-domestic.
All right, so let me keep looking.
Let me go to my Gmail also and find it.
They literally just pulled them just like a day or so ago, because I used them one day and then I went back in the next day and they pulled them.
Really? Okay, let's see.
While you're looking for that, speaking on postage, I had an interesting experience yesterday with regards to postage. One of the packages that I sent to Treasury in Austin, Texas, with that label on it, 3 of which have gone through, no issue. For some reason, the 4th one was sent back. postage due, blah, blah, blah. And I studied the outside envelope, and I said, okay, there's nothing changed on this demonstration, which leads me to believe this was a deliberate act by an actor who did not know what they were looking at, versus the system that went through with the other three. The other three went through successfully. This fourth one was sent back. So and what's very interesting, is the same day I received this package back, another one was delivered to that new Treasury address, to our Treasury. But it said that it went to the general mail facility at a specific address. And the envelope that I received back said, you need an address on here, because it just says Treasury, Austin, Texas. No address. And the three went through. This last one didn't. So I said, okay, you're holding it, according to what I just looked at in the tracking, you're holding a package or the Treasury at the general mail facility in Austin, Texas, at a specific address. So the one that they sent back to me that I received yesterday, I turned around, repackaged it, and sent it to the general mail facility that's holding the other one, and put a copy of that on the back, just as an experiment. Okay? But I just found that very interesting, that three went through, fourth one at the same location, same address, nothing changed, and that one came back. And then on the same day, another one was delivered. So that tells me that was just deliberate interference there by someone who did not know what they were looking at.
Yeah.
Islam.
So I do see here, I'm going to delete this one, the old one, I'm going to delete it. I'll just remove it. And then the link, I'll give them, let's see, actually, it's interesting that this, let's see, what are the, one can view, let me just find the link to this, because this is the one right here. It says statutory domestic fully prepaid. We are without the U.S. So that's for those who will to have the proper stamps. You can take a screenshot of this that's on the screen and then craft your stamps as well. Let me see what this is right here. That's the YouTube video. Okay, so I see we have to put someone out here. Okay, so those are the stamps that we used, and I'm going to go ahead and put the link to that under the video. Just a moment. Okay. So are we clear on the stamps from everyone? Does everyone have that?
Islam, if you can put that link in the chat, please.
Yes. Let's see. File information. Let me share. Copy link. And let's put that in the chat. Okay, there's the link to the stamps. For anyone who wills to have them, we just put it in the chat.
Gratitude.
And then for those who cannot see the chat, if you can see the screen, we'll just put it right here also. There's the link. And you can just grab it from the screen as well. So with that being stated, we've already met and exceeded the statute and the law for a well-organized militia, except we're at peace. We're peacekeepers. We're not at war. We're not going to war. There's no one to fight. There's no one to fight. There's no one eligible for our estate except us. If there was someone else who might have stood a chance of being eligible for our estate, then that would be different, but there's no one that qualifies but us for our own estate. With that being stated, I have a question about, and this is a different set of questions on a different topic. First, let me state that with this topic about Federal Reserve notes, our goal was simply to just make it clear to everyone that is heavily dependent on Federal Reserve debt notes that you move in the direction of not using them. Take it one process at a time. If you can start with the mailing process and sending your things by mail, if you can start with that process and perfect that process so that you don't have to use fiat for that, that's a great place to start. And then move to the next process where you don't use fiat, and the next process, and the next process. That is, those are our suggestions for that, because that other thing is not the quote unquote enactment of colonization by way of fiat debt notes and debt paper is no more. So I have a question now, and it's directly related to the topic we just spoke about as well. Here's the question: if your bloodline was extremely wealthy and in the top 0.001% of the wealthiest on earth at least 10,000 years ago, what happened to their wealth? And that actually shouldn't say money, it should say wealth. What happened to their wealth? So let me just ask you, and I'm going to put an E on the end of wealth because that long ago we would have spelled it that way or WELLTH. Let me ask the Congress, was there a time when those in your bloodline were extremely wealthy? Was there a time? And I'm talking about as far back as the pyramids.
Islam, Empress.
Islam.
Yes.
Islam, indeed. Indeed.
Islam.
Islam, Empress.
You know, they keep digging and digging and digging and finding. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 And they haven't even scratched the surface in their enactments of doing that. We're everywhere. Islam nobility.
Yes. They absolutely wealthy.
Yes.
Because the world fed off of, the world patronized, the world learned from, the world knew that the knowledge that was available contained among people that look like us, ancient times.
Indeed. So now I have a couple of other questions to go with that one, because we're going to think about this, because the more I thought about it, the more it just made it very clear to us what we're doing.
Islam.
Empress.
Well, because you asked the question, but the question is, what happens to their wealth?
We're getting there. Yeah.
But it's right here though, and it you know, it just got, you know, put somewhere safe kept, and so we just have to go to where that safekeeping is, which is in our DNA, and unlock it. That's it.
So let me ask this question. Were they intelligent enough to will the wealth to you so that the wealth stayed in the bloodline? Were our ancestors intelligent enough to will their wealth to us so that it stays with the bloodline? That's a question.
Well, the answer would be duh.
That's a good answer.
Which is yes. In Japanese or Chinese is yes. Duh is yes.
Yeah. Just think for a moment, Morris. Just think. Just think. Next question. Did they create their own wealth, or did someone give it to them? Islam nobility.
They created their own.
Yes. 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 Think about that. They didn't get that from someone else. They created it. And then let's just keep going, because I was about to take it another step. Question number 4. Was their wealth by bloodline and birthright, or was it on paper only?
It is written after it is stated in the ethers.
Yes. Yes. It's written in the stars and the moon and the sun and on the mountains and in the hieroglyphs and the deepest tunnels at earth. Our wealth is still there. Everywhere. It's written on the rocks and the pyramids. It's written in the trees. It's everywhere. Mm-hmm. Question. Were they the court, or did a foreign court govern their wealth 10,000 years ago?
The question say, did it even exist? And the answer is no.
So what nerve have we to allow others to govern over us?
Agreed.
Never. Are we mad at anyone? No, we're not mad, but everything is restated. Everything. Islam nobility.
With the thought of words that came through, it says, never relinquish your power. Now, that's a key word, relinquish, but that's the best I could come up with.
Well, think about it, nobility. I think that's a beautiful word because the root word of relinquish is what?
Re means all over again.
That's the prefix, yes.
Link.
Linquish and liquidate. I don't know if you want to.
It's link.
Link. Okay.
Yes. It's link. Like O&A strands, like bloodline and birthright, like linked, like what Mother gave us in her, well, when we were in her sacred and holy womb. And she just linked everything that was in her into us. So now let's think about this for just a moment. They were the court. There was no such thing as a foreign court over them. It didn't even, that was not even ever even spoken of. For it to be spoken of was an abomination. So here's another question. Number 6. Do we know what our ancestors knew?
Islam, yes. It's in the blood.
Yes. Yes. So what are we worried about in terms of coming off of a freaking fiat system? What is that about?
Fear.
Hello? Hello? Just take it up one process at a time. Do the mailing process and just let that process be the one you focus on. When you focus on it, it's going to do what it's supposed to do. The mailing process is going to work for you when you focus on it and you practice it.
Islam, Empress.
Islam.
In that mailing process, I have to get that link drawn to the chat because I didn't take a screenshot of it. That's the only way I can get it.
Is by the chat? Is by the link in the chat? Is that what you're stating, Nobility?
Right.
The link was put in there several times. Do you need it to be put in there again? We can put it in there again if you need, if you will to have it.
Drag it to the chat.
Okay, let's do it once more here. Can someone check that link and make sure that it works for everyone?
Oh, it does.
Great. Justice Dumois, do you see the link there in the chat? We just put it in the chat.
No. You may just have to scroll. He may not be scrolling.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, indeed. Islam, thank you. In the chat. Okay. So now this is the question now. Are you wealthy now based on what we just talked about and your ancient ancestors and all of that? Are you wealthy now?
Yes.
Is there anyone? Go ahead, Nobility.
It begs the question and even a narrative because it's a mind shift now is what I'm speaking within my own.
Yes.
Thinking is a need for mind shift because we've been bombarded with so many corrupting messages about definitions of wealth and how that plays out, who has it, who shouldn't have it, how do you get it, all those kinds of things, and all of those corporate limitations and trappings that go with that.
Yes.
Islam, Empress.
Islam, Nobility.
Yes, to piggyback on what the brother was saying, I was just thinking, study yourselves.
Yes.
So that brings the mind back.
Yes.
And so that's how we get back to getting our wealth.
It's the renewing of the mind. Let this mind be in you that was also in Yeshua, one of our ancestors, who is, again, we are our ancestors returned. Yes, you are Christ returned. They kept saying that somebody was coming back. You're here. We're back. So with these questions in mind, no one even had the authority to touch our estate in the first place. Our ancestors were not going to allow anyone to come and just claim our estate randomly. So what did they do? They used Babylonian strategy in their enactment to do that. Babylonian strategy. Our ancestors' wealth has not gone anywhere. It's right here with us. We are the wealth. Before any mountain, we're the wealth. Before any gold or silver, we're the wealth.
Islam.
Islam nobility.
So then, looking at the fact that this was all put in place long before colonization took place,
yes.
Long before,
yes.
right? So when they came up with this idea that they were going to go and steal the land, they knew they really couldn't take it. Steal the wealth, they knew they couldn't really take it. It was locked down in a system that they could not control or get over. So the only real solution that they had from their nefarious means of thinking was to simulate everything. That's it. That's it. So they simulated money, simulated commerce with fake money, and created fake people for the fake money, knowing that they could never really get to the real thing. You know, I just had to, just based on the flow of where you were going and how you were stating things, it's like, duh, that's exactly what they did. So I just wanted to state the obvious. Islam.
Therefore, Babylon. Therefore, Babylon. Therefore. And now, Moors, now we are using the anti-Babylonian strategy where we state back everything. Because you can't lose when you do that. The system will automatically recognize and acknowledge what you've done. Period. Period. Anything that you see, that's in black ink like that, just restate it and it's yours. No matter what it is, restate it and it's yours.
Guess you forgot to restate that Land Rover, didn't you, bitch?
We won. We won. We won.
Well, where's your self?
We won. Period. Oh, someone's pretending, acting like they're light when they're really dark, or black rather. Someone put something in the chat pretending to be light. when they're really dark. Not even dark, black. So now that we think about our wealth hasn't gone anywhere. It's always been here.
September, we're going in September, remember?
It's always been here. Our wealth hasn't gone anywhere. We are it's standing right here. We are the wealth. Period. Islam. Just one moment. We'll do that. Islam. So, with having stated the things that we've stated about our wealth, we have absolutely no adversary when it comes to what we're doing. We've already opened all the doors. We've already opened all the doors, and now it's time for us to demonstrate for all of our brothers and sisters what being ourselves really looks like. It's time for us to demonstrate that and win them. Win them. Win them. We've already won them. Now we're just going to demonstrate that. So the word for the day is you must speak. You must speak. And again, demonstrating. Speaking is doing your documentation, sending things out, demonstrating who you are. In the previous era, those who refused to speak publicly were deemed insignificant and were muted. Again, those who could not find their voice, and that's a choice. That's a choice. You can choose to find your voice and choose to exercise and demonstrate your voice. This is the era for the voice and the demonstration. If you do not, and I can't say that because we're all going to speak, because we are speaking, we have deemed ourselves significant. Significant, and the root word of significant is sign, a sign that we are living. That's the word for the day. There are a couple of stories in the Babylonian mirror that we found interesting. One of the stories, we know the story of George Washington supposedly enacting chopping down the cherry tree. Is that correct? Is everyone familiar with that and what the cherry tree means? Because the cherry tree was a sign of the bloodline and the birthright. The red cherries, that's why we chose the cherry tree as our a sign or a symbol. And that's why certain places have cherry blossoms everywhere. All judicial districts have cherry blossom trees everywhere. All judicial districts have cherry blossom trees everywhere. Japan is one of those places. Here is one of those places. Quote unquote, D.C. was enacted as one of those places. We know that's not a judicial district though, because it doesn't exist. There's no such thing as D.C. as a state or a city or a district or a place. But this, about right around the time of the eclipse, 3 bottles it was first 2 bottles, and then they found a 3rd bottle recently, while they continued digging, of cherries, and it's really they say it's cherry wine. Were discovered or found at George Washington's Mount Vernon home in the enactment. And it was completely intact. And here's the link to that story. Why is that significant? Because the cherry tree that was supposedly chopped down was not ended. It was hidden away. And can anyone who might be a connoisseur of wines and things, because we used wines for healing, can you guess, or just take a guess at how much one bottle of a 300 or a 248-year-old bottle of wine, how much that might cost?
6 figures, over 100,000.
At least, at minimum, it's probably going to be more in the millions, maybe 1.5 or 2 million. But they found that. So we were hidden away to be presented, and that's just symbolic. It's just symbolic of the Moors, and of course it was found at George Washington's home, and I'm putting that in air quotes. That's another major symbolic gesture. Another story that came out recently was that, and we've seen this before many times actually, the U.S. citizens, there was one in this particular story who was 64 years old, and this U.S. citizen found out that he is not a U.S. citizen. And the system told him that. The system. So he says that he was born at Canada and that he moved to the United States when he was 4 or 6 or something like that. So he says he's been in the United States for 60 years, and he says that he worked the whole time and he paid into Social Security, and eventually they told him he was going to get something like $690-something a month in Social Security. And then 2 weeks after that, he received a letter saying that he's not eligible because he's not his citizenship hasn't been proven. In other words, his identity. So the system bounced him out. But here's the thing, again, even while he was working, quote unquote, he was acting as a policy enforcer for NJ, which is not a state, that doesn't exist. But they showed documentation that he had out on the table and things of that nature. Every one of them had a different name on them. Every one of them had a different name. It's like someone named James who is sometimes called Jim, sometimes called Jimmy, sometimes called some other name, a nickname, just a bunch of stuff in a bunch of different names. A Social Security card, quote unquote, a driver's license, quote unquote, because those are not real documents, a military ID, because he had supposedly been in the U.S. military, and so on and so forth. And they told him he was not eligible for his Social Security because of his identity.
Islam.
Empress.
It's interesting that this is brought up because I was looking up Social Security, and on YouTube there's a few videos that talks about the history of Social Security and why it was created and enacted. It was enacted to give the poor of the poor money, right? And in their class system in England and so on and so forth, you know, the corporate England and whatever. But yeah, it's interesting, right? But then when you also go further, the Social Security Trust is associated with that. So that's essentially how I'm viewing it is they don't have the worth your weight in gold account.
No. Mm-mm.
And so yeah, that part. But if I may go back to the previous article about George Washington, 3 would be, you know, the completion number, and then the ferries of wine, you know, that's also in the Biblios about Yeshua turning water into wine. So there's some significance from that perspective as well. And so yeah, very interesting.
Mm-hmm. You know, where the citizens are concerned, the system is just doing what the system was going to do anyway. The system does not have $1,600 and something a month to give to anyone because we said no to the debt. Now you even have those that were doing business as whatever they were doing business as, unable to collect from that old system because the system's done. So that's another reason why what we're doing at the territory regarding the People and Patriots program, we're just using our minds to create the resources for the people so that they don't have to, so that because there's no poverty on our land. No poverty. So, you know, and here's the thing again, and we stated this earlier, when Moors are properly governing, when we're properly governing our own personal estate, our own private estate, those programs are not for us. They're not for us. But until we all get to that point, you know, and then we have the option to look at the ministry of these programs, because again, the programs were not supposed to be for us. But again, as we're making this transition, we'll transition out of those programs. But we must minister them to begin with. So any place that you go to where you've done lien, levy, bond, and then you properly proclaim the building, the structure, the land under the structure, then you look at the process that they use and you minister to the subjects in the office of manager by stating that this is how delarium is used in the system. This is how it's used in the system. I mean, I've not been a cashier at that place before, but I already know. I know systems, and I know what they use in the system. So that is how you get delarium, and that's also how your needs are met until such time that you elevate even beyond those programs for yourself and minister them for others. They have to be ministered for others, though, for sure. Because like I stated before, 2 weeks, and there's going to be major shaking going on. in terms of quote unquote economics. Okay? Major shaking. It's already started, but so for those Moors who've done the 40-something documents, this is why the 40-something documents on the public record were so important, because we are ministering the resources on our land. We're ministering them. We're the source. Why? Because our ancestors since time immemorial put the processes and programs in place. Our wealth is secure. Our wealth is always been secure. Now we must make sure that the people on the land are taken care of, because this is our land. So for those Moors that that have done the 40-something documents, and you know the lien, levy, and bond process, and you know how to proclaim the buildings, especially where the county record is concerned, to create a deed. But then on the back end, we already have title. We have allodial title to all the land, all natural resources, all commerce. When you create the deed, it's automatically going to be in trust with the allodial title. And that way, you don't have to worry about fakes coming in and trying to move you out of a building when you've already notified everyone that you have the proper documentation. That's because, see, you're not at a corporation. In your documentation, and that's what makes the fiduciary document and the address so important. When you know that you're at the right address, you already know that fakes can't come in there like that, and nobody should be running around with guns and things like that. And you have the authority to tell them this is federal property. No matter what it is, it's still federal property. Why? Because the federal government is there. This is a federal jurisdiction because of the money that's going through here in the paper and the documentation. If you sent one document there, it's federal property already, because you sent one document there, and that document made its way through the building. So no one should be anywhere with things like that. But it's interesting the way our ancestors work, because they did not lead me to say anything that day that I was there, which was yesterday. They didn't lead me to say anything. Day before yesterday, rather. They didn't lead me to say anything at that time. They just kept saying, notice them, notice them, notice them. And then once I got home, I knew then they showed me why I was to notice them. Because there will be a time when I go back again and notify. And that's how Delarium and all of this, how the changes are made, is we minister that process. We're not baby birds with our mouth open waiting for somebody to bring us a worm. That is so far from Moors that it's just unbelievable. We are actively, proactively, and preactively ministering our estate in an orderly manner. We will put more about that process out onto the public record. Right now, the ancestors are having us to just demonstrate the process. They're having us to be a little more strategic with the things we say and that we state on the record. We will to state it at the appointed time. The rest of that, because people are still getting the 40 documents done, they're still getting different things done, and we will to not overwhelm. What we do know is anything we don't state on the public record, we know that the ancestors will reveal it to those who are ready for that type of a demonstration. Because you all hear from the ancestors just like I do. Because our ancestors are within us. So, are there any questions, comments, wisdom? Delarium works. It works. And it's not it, it's a she. Delarium is the feminine word. Dollar is a masculine word. Delarium is a feminine word. Are there any questions, comments, wisdom from this amazing Congress?
Gratitude, Empress.
Islam.
Gratitude.
Islam, indeed. Thank you, nobility.
Islam, I do have a question. I was wondering for Empress Angel, how's your journey going to get down there in Philadelphia?
Islam. Well, you know, I desired to have my accounts and things set up, you know, further along than it is. But at this time, you know, I just see where it's going, and if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know, at this moment in time. Yeah, desiring to get things done. Because I just looked up, 2 weeks is my solar return time. So that's what I'm focusing on.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Major shaking, and the thing is, the things that's happening in 2 weeks are so in our favor that it's just amazing, and it's in our favor. But everything is in our favor.
Yeah.
When we really look at it, everything is in our favor. Any other questions, comments, wisdom from this great Congress? Islam. Islam nobility.
Oh yeah, about the 40 documents. I'm not in my own domicile right now, so that's why I didn't get on top of them.
Is there a printer there at the domicile that you're at, or is there a public library maybe nearby?
Right, I could get it done in that regard, but I'm talking about the mail process of coming back and forth and with the mail coming to the domicile. That's what I'm talking about.
So here's our suggestion with that, because we can sense in the spirit what you're stating. We would suggest that you send things anyway, and don't worry about whether it comes back or not, because sometimes things come back and sometimes they don't. But as long as you have your green slips, you can go ahead and send things out. Just a suggestion.
I'm gonna talk to you about, Right, that's what I was.
Better than we. Just tap into the spirit realm, and the spirit will tell you how to proceed. Because one thing you cannot do is stop. Regardless of the circumstances, you still must move forward in some way. In some way. And your spirit will tell you how to do that.
Right. So, like, just print them out and send them in, right?
Yes. No, the 40-something documents, you don't have to send them to me. You just send them. Notify, or my suggestion would be to publish them somewhere instead of sending them anywhere. Just publish them.
Okay. That was my thing, because it's not that I didn't want to participate. It was just that I'm not in my own domicile as of this moment, which I'm gonna be soon. But that's why I didn't want the mail to be going back and forth, because I've seen that before. Where
it doesn't have to go back and forth when you make your documents public. Make them public. Make them public, and then, any notifying that you can do it. And the spirit will tell you, because I know this, where there's a will, there's a way.
Give me an example, if you don't mind, of making them public. Give me some examples.
If you have a cell phone or a camera where you can take pictures of the document and post those pictures up on Facebook or anywhere where they can be seen, or create a specific Facebook page for it where they can be seen by anybody who comes to that page, that's making them public.
Okay. You know what? I was thinking something else about when you said put it on a record. That's probably what the issue was, too. I was thinking something else.
People think that you have to go down to a fake court and get their approval and all of that. You don't have to do that. You have to put it in the ethers, publish it into this realm.
Okay, see, I ain't gonna lie, that's what I thought you was talking about. I'm thinking you're talking about battling, like going back and forth with them, and and I've been through that legal process where they going back and forth with mail and shit, and I thought, okay.
No, you're the sovereign. You're the sovereign. You don't need anybody's approval to publish your document.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna get on top of that then. So get it typed out, or I can copy it myself and just, or take a picture of it, or you said, and just post it. Okay.
You can take a picture of it and upload the photo of it. You can turn it into a file if you will to do that. You're going to be working on them anyway. Turn it into a file, print it out, sign it, scan it back in, and upload that. Where there's a will, there's a way. It can be done.
Yeah, because I started reading them, but like I got through a lot of the reading of them, right? But at the same time, like it's funny because I got used to the language. That's what's funny about it. But yeah, I'm gonna
It's in your blood.
Right. Okay, I'm definitely gonna get on top of that though.
Please do, and that goes for everyone. Everyone. See, our ancestors are not accepting excuses from us anymore. We can't say that we are minors and we don't know how to do this and don't know how to do that. We must do something. And I'm talking to everyone at this point. We don't have, and the same thing with the fiat. They're not accepting excuses because the remedy's been created. So everyone must be moving in that direction. And we say this: as long as you're moving in that direction, then you'll have protection for what it is you're doing. Okay? But we have heard more in the past say things like, well, fiat is working for me, so I'm going to use it. We suggest that you not have that attitude or energy, rather. Don't have that energy about it, because that's not going to be the case soon. It's not going to be the case soon. Our job was to create the remedy. Remedy is an email away. Delarium can be emailed to you. The same way anybody else would call themselves. Listen, people think that when Walmart does a Walmart to Walmart, that somebody actually sent them something over the airways when really they didn't send them anything. It's that the Walmart in St. Louis, I'll just use that as an example, the Walmart in St. Louis took $50 off of their books and sent a message to Walmart in Michigama, and Walmart in Michigama took the $50 on their books and handed it to you. And they took a $8 or $10 or $12 or $13 fee for that. That's all they did. That's it. They didn't mail money out. They sent electronic messages back and forth. And then books were adjusted. Ledgers were adjusted on each end. You and I could do that right now, today. When you go to buy, quote unquote, in the last era, to buy a car, your signature first created permission for someone that was doing business as a bank to even put the $80,000 on the books for the car. I'm using that as an example, and it's a very abrasive example. Your signature created the $80,000 that the bank put on their books. Then you went and you filled out the loan thing, okay? And then what happened? The bank, quote unquote, and the dealership, quote unquote, have a trust agreement that says, hey, the bank is going to remove the $80,000 that you gave them with your signature off their books, and the dealership puts the $80,000 on their books. And boom, someone has a car.
Islam. And somehow you become the third party debtor.
And they left you with holding the bag of debt. Yeah, you got a conveyance, but you don't own it. You didn't own it back then. Same thing with the paycheck. Okay, make no mistake about it. Your signature created the pay. And then the company, because the company was eating off of you, actually, they would put that amount aside, and it was 10 times what you signed for. It was 10 times, it was 100 times what they gave you. They took the rest. And gave you the pennies. But your signature gave them a lot. Millions, depending. So with that being stated, Islam nobility.
I was just going to say, it's funny, I told a young lady that just the other day about how every time you sign a document, you know, it affects you without you even knowing it, because you're getting pennies, but you just opened up a new business for them. Or so that's how I kind of like told her. And you know what she said? She said she don't really care as long as she got a roof over her head and food on her table. So this is what we're dealing with. You know, how people really don't care as long as they're you know, they're satisfied as being a prisoner of war.
Oh, that's easy. That's easy, because after a while they're not gonna have a place to stay, and they're not gonna have food on their table when they shut that bank enactment down. That's easy. Then they'll pay attention. And that's why I say we don't will that for anyone. We will that everyone wake up before you get tossed under a bridge somewhere and have to live there.
Well, I'm almost in that position.
Well, if you expect that position to happen to you, I
don't expect it, but it's
okay.
It's just circumstances cause you to just say, you
know. No. Empress Aisha, Islam.
Would someone share with me where they're getting the magnetic ink from?
You can go on Amazon, and I think they have some magnetic ink there. And just put in the type of printer that you have, and just put the type of printer and magnetic ink, and it will come up.
Okay. The other question is, maybe I could get a couple of suggestions on how to change accounts over. Do you just take funds out of these banks, or you have to lien them first? You take your funds out first, or what?
So you don't want to take funds out if you have not liened, levied, bonded. You want to do that first: lien, levy, and bond. But again, each situation is going to be different. Let me put it that way, because you can't really say don't take it out, because things are going to be happening anyway.
Okay.
So our suggestion, Empress, and this is why we've been talking about the lien process and the levy and the bond process, We must be competent to govern our estate, and those processes are a part of governing our financial estate. So there are templates for that. So our suggestion is to go within your spirit and see what your spirit says about whether you should take things out and put things in and move things around. Let the spirit lead you on that, because you have details that we don't have about your situation. You have details about it. You know more about your situation and the way you have things set up than we do about your situation and the way you have things set up. Let the spirit lead you, Empress, on whether to take things out or not. But let this be the number one, because and there's one rule that I use for everything. I don't do anything out of fear. So if you are thinking about pulling things out because you're fearful, even a little bit of fearful, I would suggest not doing anything with fear in mind, because that's really the point of all of this. Just wait until you're not afraid anymore and then make a move, because you can think clearly when you're not afraid. You're going to be taken care of, Empress. You have been here on this earth being taken care of for many years. Not once did you have to go without to the point of knocking on death's door. Not once did you get that close to being without, and you're not close now. Everything is yours already. Don't do anything out of fear.
How when you do the lien, levy, and bond, is that how many pages is that?
It depends on how many people you're liening and levying and bonding. A levy is only 2 pages. A lien is however many pages it is that it depends on how many people. When I liened 5,000 people, it was quite a few pages. It was quite a few pages. When it was 2 people, it was only 2 or 3 or 4 pages.
Okay, I guess what I'm asking, those pages come in one packet, or?
It's not really a packet. It's just some templates that are out there on the public record. You can pull them from under any of these videos. We have a template of a lien under the videos. A lien and a levy and a bond. The post office video has a lien, a levy, and a bond under there, I believe. Or actually, I know it's in the video, the lien, levy, bond. So you can look at that video. It's only 47 minutes video, and you can look at it and see how many pages the lien, levy, and bond that we did for the post office was.
Okay.
Islam, Empress.
Islam.
I have a quick question. In the process of lien, levy, and bond, I'm doing a demonstration with a motor vehicle place, and I am putting in to receive the vehicle, and I need to put I'm under understanding, I think I pretty much have to put a lien on the vehicle too as well that I'm willing to get from the place. Is that correct?
You lien the VIN number.
The VIN number, yep.
So, yeah.
Yep, okay. Thank you,
The
Islam.
VIN number, the manufacturer.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, I yield.
Islam.
Islam, if I may.
Islam, Empress.
One thing is coming clear to me is that the realization that the 2 weeks, right, and what that incorporates, what that involves, what that stands for, what that looks like, what that presents. Like, we already know that the corporate beast, as they were, is gone, right? But now it's like the funny mirror, like the gleam or the shine, or the image in the mirror is going to be so far gone you won't see it anymore. And what does that really look like in me? All right, so when it comes to the frauds saying, oh, if you don't pay us, we're going to take your house. If you don't pay us, we're going to take your conveyance. Well, what does that saying goes? He who did not have can't give or take away, or however, it's a thing. Like the state that is created can't have more power than this previous state.
Mm-hmm.
So with that stated, they can't do nothing anyway. And then when you add unto that the fiction is got two more, well, I call it, breaths. They got two more before, like, the death is complete. The process is complete from the 2 weeks that was, that you stated. Like, so to know that, and then to know that we are all offices. So you just have to stand on your square and state you're the office and speak to the system that will always be there, because the system is ancient. The system is the bloodline and birthright. So you speak to the system, you command the system, and the system will obey. Like it says in the Biblios, you command the mountains to move, and they will move. So when you are doing your processes, like you just stated, Empress, like you can't have fear or trepidation about what it is you're doing. You have to have the exactness about why you're doing it and for what you're doing it, and then execute it, knowing that it's already done. It's in your favor. And so there's nothing to worry about. The worst is done. Now we're just in triumph and victory. That's where we're at right now as a collective.
Yeah, so for us, the 2 weeks is all it is just going to be another reason for us to celebrate. For us. It's another reason for us to celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
We have to know also, and Empress, thank you for that, especially particularly mentioning the system piece. In reality, there is no they. It's just a system. Past, present, and future, it was always a system. A system. That is what gave us the confidence to go and do what we did, the demonstrations we did this week, that we was thinking was years away, and they're now here. We know systems. And because we know systems, we also know that what we're stating cannot be denied. There's no denial. There's no adversary when the system is saying yes. Why? Because we programmed it to say yes. So you said something really important, Empress Angel. You stated something about what does that look like. It's really going to kind of look like it looks now, except you're a lot richer. Looks a lot like what it looks like now, except you're a whole lot richer and in 100% in control of your estate.
Okay, my comment is, and thinking like you said, publishing, you can put your information out there and publish it any place. That's something almost like it was kind of like back in the slave days when the slave would run away and the master would publish it in the newspaper.
Yes.
Or something, letting people know that was his property and he was entitled to it. He wanted it back.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's almost.
It creates a financial instrument when you publish things. I know people don't know that, but it does. Every time you put something on the public record, it creates a financial instrument.
So if I'm on Facebook, like you said, and I want.
Yes.
I guess I couldn't put a lien, a levy, and a bond on Facebook though, could I?
Yes, you sure can. There's nothing against a lien, levy, and bond being on Facebook. Because Facebook is lien, levied, and bonded.
Okay. So what I just need to do is find the links of the lien, levies, and bonds and fill them out and find somewhere to post them.
We would suggest that you study the processes so that you know. Just look the words lien, levy, and bond up, and start there when you're dealing with templates. Start your study there, and then whatever templates you're using, Empress, if you see anything that you don't quite understand, look it up in the dictionary or do a little study and research on it so that you can stand on what you've done.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Islam, Justice Hakeem.
Oh yeah, I just want to add to what she said because I went through that too. Because like legal definitions are so different, so you definitely got to know what you're doing. Islam.
Just use an older dictionary. And here's the thing about legal definitions: whenever we write our own documents, the word means what we say it means. Because we're the author, which makes us the authority.
Oh, okay.
So we don't go by dead definitions of things. We're the Phoenicians. We define. We define and we make fine and refine the word.
Okay. And those writs that, you know, the different writs and stuff that you gave us a long time ago, are those just as effective as the lien, levy, and bonds, or do you still have to do the lien, levy, and bonds?
What does your spirit say, Empress? If your spirit tells you that it's just as effective, then it is.
Well, I'm feeling quite comfortable with that right now. You know, a couple of them I've looked at, and I know I need to get started. I've been studying and all that stuff, you know, so it's time to quit studying and start to work.
You know what? The work is the study. The work is the study. Just, you know, going ahead and doing the documentation, that's the study. Demonstrating the documentation, that's the study.
Okay.
So, Empress, whatever your spirit says about the processes, you could do lien writ, levy writ, bond writ. But what we're really the reason we've done things the way that we do them is so that our system recognizes the documentation where it's irrefutable. No one can refute them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we did the processes the way we did them. All we did was look at the Babylonian system and then did anti-Babylonian work.
Like today, I was looking at what the allodial title is.
Mm-hmm.
Allodial land title.
Yes.
And actually, I was just kind of thinking about applying the definition, using a portion of that within the deed itself, or within the title itself, and that would spell out to them exactly what they are not supposed to do.
So, Empress, that works at the higher level. What you're doing is you're above the legal system when you do that. Okay? Mm-hmm. What we've done is, so allodial title supersedes anything legal because it's lawful. But this dimension that we're at, where we have volunteered to do a commercial system, is where the lien, levy, and bond process came from. So when you will to bypass persons who are pretending to be government, if you want to bypass them and shut them up and mute them, then you do the legal process the way the legal process is laid out. That's what the lien, levy, and bond process is. And actually, particularly the levy and the bond. Those are levies and bonds that look like what the system recognizes, but it's restated to a higher level. So I see, Empress, what you're saying, and that what you just stated, it answers the lawful piece, but the system cannot see lawful. The system sees legal. That's why we did those processes, the levy and bond process. The liens were lawful, which grounded the levy and the bond to it. So all we did was tie the levy and the bond to the land. So that the system, that means that people who will pick up the phone and call you and say you owe them something can't do that, because all they're doing is looking at a system. That's all they're doing, is looking at a piece of paper that was spit out of a system onto their front desk, onto their desk, and them saying, okay, I gotta enforce what the system said. So what we're doing is speaking to our system, and when we speak to our system, it automatically mutes any other system. And then the system that they've been looking at will say what we tell it to say. Because they've really been looking at, the system is a system. It's a system. It hears the words of whoever programs it. It hears the words of the master. And that's what these legal processes are about. That's why we took the time all these years to learn the legal processes.
So if I come in there with the definition of the allodial title and attach it
at the lawful level, Empress. You hadn't spoken to the system yet. You're still allodial title. That really they can't really speak to allodial title. Allodial title will not change what the system says. Allodial title changes nature. It changes the universe. But the system, the legal system, legal documentation changes the legal system.
Okay.
If you want them to recognize your paperwork, because see, that's something that Moors were saying. They don't recognize, they said they don't recognize it because it was lawful. They can't see lawful. They can see legal. They know legal because that's a system. They cannot supersede a legal system and go to lawful because they're not sovereign. So they have to look at what they can see, which is a legal system. That's where the levy and the bond process come in.
Okay.
If you will, that they know that your domicile is yours outright, then you use legal processes to do that. What all that is look at what they're using to make their claim, and then restate what they're using. Whatever they sent you, Empress, if you restate that, you're going to end up with a lien, a levy, and a bond. You are. Mm-hmm. Because that's all they're trying to enforce. That's it.
Okay.
So
can you send the chat for me to call, please?
Islam. So Empress Aisha, you're still. I'm hearing that you're still looking at the lawful process, which is correct. However, you've probably already done everything lawfully. Now it's time to do things legally in our system, not theirs. So again, you're not speaking to the persons, you're speaking to the system. And when you get the systemic process correct, if the system is not going to change what you say, it's going to keep saying the same thing. She owns the home. She owns the home. She owns the home. Because it's only when the legal process is done properly that then they have to look up at the lawful and see that you have the right to make that claim because you have the status. But they don't look at lawful if the legal is not saying everything is in order. You know, yeah. So now you're at, that's where deeds come in at, trust deeds come in at, like what we showed. Empress, because that's the only thing they're really acting on is a trust deed. It's not even about the payment per se. It's more about the trust deed. If it was about the payment, you'd have been out of there. It's not about the payment.
Well, I went and found the original trust deed, and
so then restate.
The first.
It's not original. That's a draft for you to restate. When you restate that trust deed and send out notification and notify them that you send them a copy. Don't send them original. Send them a copy of it. They can't repossess anything. And see, they know that. That's how come they haven't really. They know that already. They know you have the original, what you think is the original. But it's not an original until you make it. You must create one that looks just like it, but it's in blue. That's it, Empress. Mm-hmm. That's the key to the issue. And it has to be signed by you.
Okay. And I would use the same company that originally financed the house, just restated with their name on there. Also,
it's not their name though. It's going to be, you're the CEO of that company. You're the CEO of the national version of that company.
Oh, okay. I got you now.
See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So if I would suggest that you restate the deed. Restate that deed. Now, Empress, and this is my suggestion to you, because I know that you were feeling that you had to do jumping through a whole bunch of paperwork hoops. You really don't. If you make a copy, and this is my suggestion for you specifically. This is not my suggestion for everyone. It's for you specifically. Make a copy of the deed, and then go through and with your blue or red pen, correct any abbreviations. Spell everything out. Cross out the fraud part and spell out everything, and then send it. Sign it and send it.
Okay.
That's going to shorten your process significantly.
Back to the same company that
back to anybody who's pretending to move on something that's not theirs. Anybody who's pretending to move on it. Bank, quote unquote banks, quote unquote mortgage companies, and all of that. Send it to everyone.
Okay.
Okay. That's going to shorten things for you, Empress. And then in the interim, study the lien, levy, and bond process. Just look at it, because I'm sensing that there is a serious resistance to that much paperwork for you. And so, if I'm correct about you're resisting those processes because you've done so many processes already, because you've done processes for years.
I sure have.
And you're probably worn out from doing processes like that. So again, my suggestion, and that won't take you but a little while to go through, make a copy of that original deed and go through and correct it. And then sign it and put your thumbprint.
It ain't gonna work. It's all bullshit. Okay. Pauline's textbook go bull.
That means it will work.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get started on that tonight.
Yeah, that's something that can be done quickly, because I'm sure it's probably just a one-page document, isn't it? A one or two page.
What's her excuse going to be in 2 weeks for her?
To it.
It's what, Empress?
It may be. I think it's about 5 pages to it.
Yeah, it won't take you long to go through and just any abbreviations that you see, write, put a line through it and write out that, whatever it is, write it out.
Okay.
And then
What about my signature? The difference in a real signature and the part that I'm control of the all caps name.
You're going to sign it the way you would.
Aisha, you paid $400 to get a license plate for your car.
So, Empress, you would autograph it on the last page at the bottom, and put your right red thumbprint on it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't worry about controlling an all caps name and all of that. Don't worry about that.
You paid $400 fee on Aisha.
Okay.
Okay, don't worry about controlling in all caps. What you do is, if that's, and since you brought that up, if you will, to go through on the deed and cross out the all caps and put your
mow your fucking lawn, Aisha.
And put your name that you own and control, put it in capitis diminutio minima, which means first letter capitalized, rest of the letters lowercase. Those are the types of changes that we're talking about with the document, with that deed that you have.
Okay.
Okay. Just go through and let that be your focus until that specific deed all the way through it is complete. In terms of any abbreviations, take, line through them and write out the whole thing. And then send it to and notify, because all you're doing is notifying them. You're not dealing with them. You're notifying the system that they've been looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Islam.
So I use the upper and lower name.
You can use the first letter capitalized and the rest of the letters lowercase.
Right. Okay.
That's people. A person is all caps. That's people that you're talking about, because you are the people.
Okay.
So, and Empress Aisha, do you mind staying on the call afterwards for just a few minutes so that we can have a word, just talk through that really quickly?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Islam.
Islam.
Empress Angel, Islam. So with that being stated, are there any, one last thing. Another story from the funny mirror, because people like to point to this particular one and, talk about, quote unquote, Elon Musk has all this money and whatever. Here's a story from the funny mirror where, and when I say funny mirror, we mean a mirror that is distorted and fraudulent. But the story is that those who enacted buying a Tesla car, some of the first few models, all of their batteries from the first set of Teslas, all their batteries have died. And in the story, there is a mechanic at a garage who has a whole lot full of those where the people who supposedly purchased them walked away from them. Because, for example, if they paid $20,000 for the quote unquote $20,000 for the Tesla, the battery died, and then they had to get a new one, and the replacement battery is $20,000. So the same amount that they supposedly paid for the car is the same amount that the battery cost. So they could literally just waste money on a new one if that's what they willed to do, or wanted to do rather. And so that's a story about how all of those cars are being abandoned. To us, we know that is symbolic for what's happened in terms of what we've stated before. Everything was labeled as abandoned, and what we're doing is just claiming everything that belongs to us. The wealth of the wicked is laid up for the righteous. And then there's also another scripture that is manifesting. It's Mark, the 10th chapter, verse 30. I believe it's verse 29 and 30. Let me just take a look and see.
Just comment while you looking that up. Quick question. Summons with a lien. Is that judicious? Is that prudent to?
A summons with the lien?
Yes. You got to do the court action, the removal.
Yes.
And the okay.
Yes, indeed.
That too. Islam.
Islam, if I may just briefly, when you was just mentioning about the cars being abandoned because of the amount of the battery equaled or was greater than the value of the car, that I know I was in an accident in the past era, and the car was deemed totaled, and it just hit me, that's a banking term for real. And so when you look it up for insurance, it says, what does total mean? The insurance company will look at the value of your car versus the cost to repair it. If the cost to repair the car is about the same or more than the value of the car, the insurance company will likely consider it totaled.
Yeah.
And so when we look at a receipt and you see the word total on a receipt.
Yes.
Come on now.
That's
got my mind in the loop.
It's because it's talking about redeeming something that was that needed to be salvaged or saved. It's redemption. That's what total is all about. To them, a totaled vehicle is one that is no longer roadworthy because of the cost, the debt associated with it. That's interesting, Empress, that you brought those two the duality of the word total.
Yes, and one enacts fraud, and then the other enacts credit.
Yes, absolutely. This is where we are right now. And Yeshua answered and said, verily I say unto you, there is no man that has left their house, their brothers and sisters, father, mother, wife, children, or lands for my sake or for the name's sake. And we know what names is all about. We have our own names. And the Gospels, which is the good news that we're not poor, we never were poor, and all of that. It says, but he shall receive 100-fold now in this time, not later, not after someone is passed on and transitioned up, but shall receive 100-fold now in this time. Houses, brethren, sister, mothers, children, lands, with, and this word should say prosecution, which goes back to the question that you just asked, Nobility, that should a summons come with the lien and stuff? Yes, because you're going to prosecute. And in the world to come, eternal life. But many that are first shall be last, and the last first, period.
So to me, Empress, that means the word also says that Yeshua would be a surety for us.
Yes, we already did that, and we back from that. We're already back. Because we pointed that out at the beginning of this Congress, Empress, about surety.
Okay.
We pointed that out at the beginning with the Federal Reserve, this piece right here. When we looked at the this right here, the second sentence says the Federal Reserve Act requires that Federal Reserve notes be issued to a reserve bank through the Federal Reserve agent or through an assistant Federal Reserve agent appointed by the agent, listen to this, upon pledge of adequate collateral security by the bank. That's the surety piece right there. See, for many, the money contracts is really supposed to be the surety. The gold is actually supposed to be surety, not people. Gold was supposed to be surety.
Okay.
The money. So yes, they say that Empress, and that's why they worship the way they do. We know that we are the lords for the land, and you know, we get to state what is surety and what's not surety, and never will we ever be surety. Our body, these temples, oh no, will never be surety for anyone ever again, ever. And the beauty of this era is that none of us have to go on the cross. None of us have to be crucified this era. Isn't that awesome? I think, to me, I get a breath of fresh air every time I think about that. That the time on the cross is over. That enactment is done. And we don't have to crawl our behinds back up on no cross. I'm so happy.
Mm-hmm.
We have no contracts with the dead. No contracts with the dead. Islam. We have the keys of death, hell, and the grave, which we've cast into outer darkness. We don't need them because we're not going there.
All right.
We live forever, and we are wealthy, and we're going to have so much fun. This era is about us just really enjoying ourselves on our vast estate. That's what this era is about.
Well, that's where I am. I'm ready to get started enjoying my life for a change.
Yes, Empress. Listen, Empress, I'm grateful that we have remedy, that we are the remedy. All of us, we're the remedy for whatever was going on with us. We don't need anybody's permission or anything. That's why we're oh my, when we all get together, what a day of rejoicing that will be.
All right.
That's this era. That's now time. So we're so grateful. Are there any other questions, comments, wisdom from this great and mighty Congress? Empress Aisha, if you'll stay on, and Empress Angel, if you'll stay on as well. And Morris, as we move forward, we will be having meetings where there's only certain, some in certain meetings and some and others in certain meetings, or more meetings where we meet aside from the Congress. Please don't take that as you're being excluded, because you're not. All we're doing is putting processes, solidifying the processes so that we can publish them to you. That's all we're doing. And you all's time is valuable, so it's not necessary for you to be at every meeting that we have, that we call from side to side. And some people, and then there are Congress members who say, hey, can we meet at this time or that time? And, we're there. We're there. We meet with the Congress at their behest. So, don't take that as anyone being excluded or anything like that, because it's all in the favor of processes for all of us. Okay. With that being said, thank you, Nobility.
I didn't try to cut you. I just wanted to say I just like the links to videos you be sharing. That's all. I just want to let you know.
Thank you so much, Nobility. And by the way, we know that there are some who don't agree with the things we're doing. We don't get to hear a lot of what they say, because the ancestors have shielded us from that. So we don't spend a lot of time thinking about that, because our energy is necessary for nation building. So we just keep it that way. They'll come around. They'll come around. With that being stated, Empress Aisha, we'll hold here, and we will Empress, the other Empress that just sent the inbox. If we could meet at another time. Today we will to meet with Empress Aisha for what she has going on, and then maybe we can meet with you on Sunday. Okay, Empress. Okay, a really quick minute or two, and then we'll meet. So if you'll stay on as well, the Empress that's inboxing me right this moment. If you'll just stay on for just a moment, okay. With that being stated, peace and grand rising. We'll see you on Sunday at 6 p.m. Peace and grand rising to the heirs. Islam.
Peace and grand rising.
Islam, peace and grand rising.
Gratitude to my erudition.
Islam.
Thank you for letting me get my way home.
Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice to all.
Islam.
Freedom and justice. I'm rocking. Love and peace.
Yes, indeed. Islam.
May we people all be of that mind, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice.